Good evening, everyone. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. And if you've not done so already, please click the buttons down below, like and subscribe and share. I think there's a bell down there that you click or something that gives you guys notifications. So the situation in Ukraine, it's kind of getting like, there's a lot of people talking about peace talks and roads to peace and roads to victory. Guys, it's all pomp and circus. There's no peace there. This is gonna drag Europe into a full-scale war with Russia. I've been saying this since 2022, and I've been saying I'll keep repeating the same thing. What I always say: Britain will lead what's left of NATO in Europe against the Russians by 2025. That's just kind of like, where we're heading at the moment. There's no way back from this. There's really not. And you see all these like half-baked politicians and self-proclaimed intellectuals who think that because they've been to some sort of university and got some sort of education from some sort of degree that somebody else told them what they need to learn. They think that they understand geopolitics and they think they understand the world. Guys, if you need to understand the human condition before we understand any of this. And the human condition is one of greed. Now, that greed drives us to succeed. It drives us to build helicopters, airplanes, it drives us to make medical advancements, to create things, to be creative. And, I see a lot of people, and I was a little bit guilty of this myself, maybe 10, 15 years ago, When people talk about, we should all live back in nature and do this and do that. I think, well, you know what? Look how like monkeys live, and look how lions and tigers live. Is that really how we want to live? Foraging for beans and nuts and berries and hunter gathering and scavenging? Absolutely not. So, people are absolutely absurd. You can't fight what's happening any more than you can fight the human condition. We have eyes in the front of our heads. We are apex predators, engineers, explorers, pioneers. I mean, look what Elon Musk did with that landing that rocket booster back on the landing pad. I mean, I'm so critical of everyone at the moment, and I think if you guys have been following my channel for a while, my thoughts on Elon Musk and his escapades. But the engineering that went into that is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the speed of that rocket when it's coming back in, it hits us. It does a sonic boom, and the speed that it's coming in, and the engineering, the computer processing power, it's mind-boggling. It's absolutely brilliant. And then we look at what's happening in and we're still having ridiculous wars over little bits of land. Guys, we should be out there at the stars, but unfortunately we are not. And anyway, guys, that was just a little bit of a rant. I went on far too long about that. Ukraine is what we're talking about now. Anyway, so let's just get straight into it then. So it's come out that Zelensky's road victory plan to end the war, they're calling it a war now, but I don't remember at any time anyone actually, declaring this a war. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I missed it, but I've not seen anyone declare this a war on either side. So it's just a special military operation or something. But Zelensky's plan to, when did this come out actually? An article from I think it's today. 16th, yeah, so today. So an article from, and I'll put all these links in the description, guys, but Volodymyr Zelensky basically has come out and he said one of the keys to ending the conflict, or I guess it is a war, but nobody's called it a war. We'll just call it a war. The end to ending this war in Ukraine is NATO membership of Ukraine. So, that's what they've come out and said. And then literally like a couple of hours later, NATO shows no sign. Another article came out saying NATO shows no sign of letting Ukraine join soon and wants more details about its victory plan. So, straight away when Zelensky comes out with his victory plan, he got battered back down by NATO. They said, no, we're good. I mean, one of the key roles of NATO, one of the key joining criteria of NATO is you can't be in conflict with anyone. That's one of the things that has always been, you know, a cornerstone of NATO application. You can't be in conflict with anyone. It's kind of like phoning up an insurance company while you're in the middle of a crash. Hello, yeah. I've just got a quote online. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a crash. Yeah, it's a really bad one. Can I join your insurance? No, we don't do that. You need to join beforehand. So I don't see the Ukrainians getting NATO membership. And again, does it really matter right now? I mean, NATO is not really worth the paper it's written on. They don't have the strength that people think they have. Everybody talks about Article 5 and this will be an Article 5 issue. And guys, you know, I did a video. I might do another video on it actually, you know, about Article 5 and how it's just got there's no teeth in Article 5. And everybody, I think most of the people that talk about NATO Article 5, I'm convinced actually that they've not read what it means, because it's kind of like the language in it. There's so many get out clauses and there's so many interpretations. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's not worth the paper it's written on. I mean, if I want, like literally me, if I wanted to get out of Article 5, I could, like, no matter what it is, there's a lot to be taken down into interpretation on that. So it doesn't really mean much. And now you've got the allegedly, you know, there's lots of reports. I've certainly not seen any North Koreans in Ukraine myself, but there's a lot of reports now saying that the North Koreans have entered this conflict and they're fighting on the front line. I genuinely don't know if this is the case or not. There's lots of conflicting statements. Although what I can say is, if you look at the timings of this thing, when Putin went over to Russia, he did the bro thing with Kim Jong-un. And you can't, you know, and you've got to contextualize this by, sorry, not Ukraine. North Korea does nothing without China's thumbs up. So what you could say now is China okays troops into Ukraine. Now, whether they're in there or not, I don't know. I would suspect they are. If they're going to join, why wouldn't Russia push them forwards now? What I will say, though, from what I've seen on I've seen a few articles and from my sources on the ground in Ukraine as well, what I think is going to happen is I think these North Koreans are going to be used in a big multi-pronged attack. And I think that has to come, realistically, this has to come before the US election. Just politically, that's when that's kind of the best time for it to come. And then Trump can say X, Y, and Z, and we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. It doesn't really matter when it comes, but it will come, this multi-pronged attack from the Russians. And, you know, a lot of people are saying this will use a lot of the North Koreans. It makes sense for this to happen. And it makes sense for this all to happen before the US election on, what is it, was it the 4th or the 5th of November? I don't know. Guys, if you're from America, let me know. I feel embarrassed. It's the 4th or 5th of November, the US election. I feel embarrassed. I don't know. But yeah, all sorts is going on at the moment in on the Ukraine front. It's absolutely insane. Now, there's been a lot of fighting in and around the Kursk region. So for those guys who, I don't know if you're new to the channel or you don't know what's been happening, the Kursk region in Russia is the region where the Ukrainians pushed into. Now, for those of you who understand warfare and understand combat, taking ground is relatively easy. Holding ground is the difficult thing. It's very easy to blitzkrieg some ground, artillery, use indirect fire, decimate that ground, and move your troops in really quickly. That's relatively easy. It's not easy, but it's relative in the context of this warfare, of this war that we're seeing in Ukraine. Holding that ground in this context, when the other side have the same munitions, the same tactics, and a lot more manpower, that's very difficult. One of the things I said, listen, as soon as this invasion happened, I said, look, The Ukrainians, they need to make this a raid, and they need to keep doing these raids. You know, stay there for 2-3 days. Don't stay there. You know, the Ukrainians don't have the manpower to hold ground. They need to punch and get out, punch and get out, punch and get out. That will destabilize the Russian front line, because the Russians won't know where they're going to punch next. You'll get a lot of troops. It'll raise morale, and it will lower the morale of the Russian side. For whatever reason, I will tell you my reasons why I think that is. For whatever reason, the Ukrainians decided. Obviously, I don't know anyone in the decision-making process in Ukraine. But for whatever reason, they made the decision to hold the ground. Now, like I said, I don't think this was the right move. But what that did, it's kind of a double-edged sword for the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians, once they decided to hold that ground in the Kursk region, that meant they had to invest logistics, they had to invest manpower, they had to invest vehicles, food, supply chain, and all these things, all these attributes have issues. They all need fuel. All the people that are operating the trucks need food. They need water. They all need ammunition. They all need additional security. Not only that, you're operating outside your normal chains of logistics. So everything becomes harder when you're operating behind enemy lines. That's why it's better to strike seasons, grasp the target, than lift off. However, the reason why I think, and this is why it's kind of dangerous at the moment, the reason why I think they wanted to hold on to that region is because of the nuclear power plant that's in the Kursk region. Now, there's a huge nuclear power plant in the Kursk region. As I understand, that generates power for 9 regions. I think the Ukrainians wanted to take that nuclear power plant intact. What I also said is, if the Ukrainians are looking like they're going to get pushed out of that region, I said what they would do is, while they've got that opportunity, they're just going to destroy it. Now, let's think. Now, I know what people are going to be thinking. Oh, it's going to cause a Chernobyl incident. There's going to be nuclear waste everywhere. It's going to be, it's going to be Chernobyl times 10. No, it's not. There's lots of targets in and around that nuclear facility that if they're taken out and destroyed, it's going to take that whole nuclear facility offline. Now, these can be power, what's the word I'm looking for? The turbines, the generators. It can be the substations where the power goes through. It can be the cables. There's a whole host of things you can take out and leave that reactor intact. Now, if we think, are the Ukrainians going to do this? Well, the Russians have been attacking the Ukrainian power grid constantly. They have not let up pretty much on the Ukrainian power grid. It's one of their main intents to try and freeze the Ukrainians out. So if the Ukrainians look like they're on the back foot, they're going back, the Russians are pushing them out and out and out, it kind of makes sense for the Ukrainians to, while they have the opportunity to strike this nuclear power plant. This would be a devastating blow to the Russians. It would be a blow to their morale. It would take them time to get this back online. And that would obviously, as the Ukrainians pulled out, it would look like kind of a victory for the Ukrainians, because they managed to destroy this power grid. So will this happen? Honestly, I don't see why they wouldn't. Like, you're literally at a war with a country. Why wouldn't you blow up their power plant while you have the chance? What I would say on this is, they also have the opportunity to use, I think right now, this could be when they're pushing to use long-range ballistic missiles that were gifted to them. I'm talking about the Scalp and the Storm Shadow. It's the same missile, just a French variant and a British variant. Now, I think right now we're running a very high likelihood of this happening, as the Russians right now are pushing into that region. And as from an article that I will share with you guys, in fact, I'll show it on let me go on the share screen, guys. So from an article, I think it's from, I'll tell you right now, I think it's from the Telegraph. Yeah, from the Telegraph. Russia retakes half of lost Kursk territory. So, holding on to the region is central to the Ukrainian president's victory plan, which he presents to Sir Keir Starmer last week. Well, you know, that victory plans, I just don't think the victory plan has much, what's the word? I don't think there's not much meat on the bones. I don't think it's going to, you know, it's not going to, I am not subscribing. You know, I don't think it's going to last. But there you've got it, guys. You know, the headline, Russia retakes half of the lost Kursk territory. So that's kind of why right now we're in a very dangerous position, because the Ukrainians still have that nuclear power plant in their sights. I don't think they're stupid enough to try and attack the reactor, the nuclear reactors, because there's lots of targets in and around that area that would be just as devastating, that would not cause nuclear Armageddon or Chernobyl times 10. But anyway, guys, just thought I'd give you guys a little update on Ukraine, tell you guys what's happening. None of these conflicts are going anywhere. There's no hope there really is no hope of peace. If you think there's hope of peace, then you've got to understand that you don't understand the human condition. It's the same reason why we're heading to war, which is the same reason why we have built, you know, such a society for ourselves. Now, you can argue with that all you like, but as long as we have eyes in the front of our heads, we are apex predators. Guys, that's it. I'm going to mag to grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.